This is Furukawa. At today's corporate management policy briefing, we announced that Nintendo Switch software will also be playable on the successor to Nintendo Switch. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the successor to Nintendo Switch as well. Further information about the successor to Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date. This was a message put out by @Nintendo Co. Ltd. on November 5th, 2024. Let's talk about it, and I will be framing this conversation around Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition for the most part because I love Xenoblade. I'm really looking forward to that game, okay? Sue me. But I will give it to Nintendo. They have an unbeaten track record when it comes to making absolutely bizarre decisions, because they released this in the middle of election night. And like, yeah, I get it, they're a Japanese company, but let's not pretend as if that wasn't global news. Like, normally when you're a company, you would announce something bad and put it at a time slot like that, so it gets buried under the weight of all the other news coverage. But like, this is good news, so like, why would you announce it here? Dude, wait a day. That's all you need to do. Hey, that one meme, I'll do it tomorrow. Need you to have that one in the bank for this one. Well, I mean, we know now, so what does this mean? And let's talk about it, because this to me is simply good news straight up. One of the reasons I have not pre-ordered Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, despite the fact I've been calling for that game to exist for the longest time, is I wasn't sure on the release date for the Switch 2, and if my copy from the Switch would then go to Switch 2. Because, like, if the Switch 2 came out, like, the day of Xenoblade X Definitive Edition, I would just get it on the Switch 2. But if it came out, like, a month later, maybe I do the mental arithmetic and say, well, it's not that much waiting, I can just wait for the Switch 2, then get it. And while we don't have definitive information in regards to a potential upgrade from a Switch version to a Switch 2 version, if there's any improvement to performance, like going from, say, 30 FPS to 60. I think if we take this wording under the best light, then maybe they'll do something like that. At least the copy will transfer over and be playable on Switch 2 if you get it on the Switch. Backwards compatibility for the Switch 2, or whatever they end up calling the thing, has been a hot topic for the longest time. I have been fairly confident in the idea that the next Nintendo console is going to have backwards compatibility, mainly because it's absolutely stupid for it not to. Phil Spencer talked about this like a year or so ago, and I think he was absolutely right about this. The Xbox One, PS4 era is when a lot of people started to develop their digital library of games, at least for consoles. And unlike physical, when you have that digital library of games, which just attached to your account, people expected that on the new console they would still be able to have their collection of games, which would require backwards compatibility. Different companies have had different ways to tackle this. Xbox just gets you a free version update so long as you have the base version, and so long as they actually, did the enhancements themselves. PlayStation's like, hey, it's cool that you already have the game, but we want to give you 5 extra pixels, and if you want the right to play at 60 FPS, can you toss us like $10? Unless it's Persona 5 Royal on the PlayStation 4, in which case you just have to buy the game again on the PS5 in order to play at 60 FPS. I'm still a bit upset about that one, by the way. But it's not like Nintendo missed the boat when it comes to digital libraries, and it really exploded when it came to the Switch. A lot of people, myself included, started buying the Nintendo games digitally, especially after 2020. And with the Nintendo Switch being as prevalent and as widely spread as it is, there's a lot of people out there that have some games digitally on the Switch and would probably not be as incentivized to upgrade to a new console if they had to leave their collection behind. Like, it is an incentive in that early year to upgrade to a new console for your old games to just play and run better, especially in like those early months where maybe there isn't all that much on the new console. It's not like the only thing that matters for a new piece of kit, but I do think it's an important slice of the pie, and it's good to see Nintendo not mess up and just confirm for whatever reason on election night the fact that the Switch 2, again, whatever it's called, will be backwards compatible with your Switch library. There's another interesting little tidbit here though, and this this largely concerns Xenoblade X for me. It will be applicable to other games, but I care more about Xenoblade X. Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the successor to Nintendo Switch as well. That to me reads that people on the Switch will be able to play online games that are on both platforms with people on the Switch too. So, Xenoblade Chronicles X originally had multiplayer. You don't have to interface with the multiplayer, you don't have to play the multiplayer to begin with, but it does exist as an option and can expedite a lot of the grind you can find in that game, or unlock some really cool skills at the very late game. I think it is a good sign that, assuming Definitive Edition for Xenoblade Chronicles X retains the multiplayer components, which I don't see why you wouldn't, you have a larger pool of potential players to party with and play around with if you're not just like locked off to only Switch players if you're running on the Switch, or Switch 2 players if you're on the new hardware. If everyone can play with each other, that should make it easy to establish parties, ideally. I think that is a good thing. They also did say further information about the successor to Nintendo Switch, including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, will be announced at a later date. Specifically, and I'm honing in on the including its compatibility with Nintendo Switch, I could be slightly off here. That reads to me they'll announce if your Switch games will get upgrades for the new console later down the line. And if that is the case, I'll just get the game Xenoblade X Definitive Edition on the Switch, because they still haven't even announced the new console. And like, maybe that comes this month, but they've like cordoned off a chunk of time until I think it's March, where they could announce it at any time in this window, from like now to March. And you have to imagine they'll take at least 6 months to market this thing. It's not like they're just going to announce the console one day and then a week later it comes out. Highly, highly, highly doubt that's going to happen. And I think it would be a smart business move for Nintendo if they just say, and I hope they say this soon, hey, all the games you play on the Switch will give you upgraded versions for free, or even if it's a little fee, and you go the PlayStation route for the new console, so that when you get the new console, your games are shinier, they run better, etc., etc. Probably by a game-by-game basis, but especially if those upgrades are free, I'll just get Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition on the Switch, and then start playing on the Switch too whenever that thing comes out. Oftentimes, trying to understand Nintendo can be like staring into an abyss. It's deep, dark, and full of scary horrors, but every now and then, I just manage to breathe a sigh of relief. Like, the timing of this announcement was odd, to say the least, but it is good news. For the most part. The only thing you could potentially spin with a pessimistic light to it would be the vagueness in regards to the compatibility with Nintendo Switch, but we'll cross that road when we get there, when they announce the thing. A lot of people predicted this, myself included, but it does seem as if the next console is an iteration on the Switch more so than, say, a completely step in a different direction, like we have been accustomed to see from Nintendo for the longest time, like going from the GameCube to the Wii to the Wii U, then the Switch. I think they struck gold with the idea of the Switch, the hybridization of it. It's a really good and solid idea, and just iterating on it and making it better seems to be the smart play in the play that they're going for. The fact that Nintendo Switch Online will be available on the next console as well, we talked about this before, that theoretically should make it so that multiplayer doesn't become a barren wasteland on the new console if not enough people buy the thing immediately. More people being able to play together is a good thing in my opinion. And for Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, depending upon how big of a delta it is between the release of that game and the release of the new hardware, should make finding parties to go on these different expeditions and these different quests a quicker, more streamlined experience if you have a larger pool of players to play with, instead of them being like sanctioned off based on what hardware they're operating on. This is a big old thumbs up for me. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.